Mark, what were your thoughts on tonight?
Pretty much agree with you. I mean, I thought she was a C+, except on abortion, where she was A, and A+ on baiting Trump. Trump took the bait repeatedly. But the real story is the moderators, as you suggested. They fact-checked Trump. They didn't fact-check her. They chose topics, including abortion, that would help her. When she baited Trump and Trump switched topics, they switched topics to ask her on immigration. And all their questions were poorly formed. And they asked a bunch of yes-no questions, which they shouldn't do. When they asked her semi-tough questions, she changed the subject, didn't answer at all. They just moved on. So to me, it might affect voters. It probably won't. But if Trump's goal, which it is to define her as weak, failed, and dangerously liberal, he was weak and failed in doing that. And so he missed his opportunity. And I'm not saying it means he's going to lose, but he was horrible. And he lost literally every round of the debate, in part because the moderators were just so ridiculously pro-Harris.
It was like they had fire hoses against him. There was so much that Trump had to try to bat down. He did what he could, but no human would have been capable of handling the number of lies she was saying. And go ahead, Mark. What were you going to say?
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I want to make clear though he was horrible. Sure, it was stacked
against him. What did you think was horrible about it?
But he had to come in knowing that. He got baited every time, talking about people leaving his events, talking about people eating cats, talking about his criminal cases, talking about race. The moderators and Harris spent the night trying to bait him into talking about stuff that wasn't about her record. He barely talked about her record. He talked more about Joe Biden's record. So I agree that the moderators controlled the stage and they made it horrible, but he was horrible and didn't do himself any favors, even in the face of unfair moderators.
Sean Spicer, you're shaking your head. Why?
Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate the big winner tonight, Candy Crowley. She now is erased as the worst moderator in history, and David Muir gets to take on that honor. Look, if you look at the first half of the debate, which is where I think most Americans were paying attention, Trump was spot on, really going after immigration, talking about the threat that we faced. I don't disagree with Mark that a lot of the times he was baited. He focused on responding to her, which he shouldn't have. His classic line of the night, "You've had 3 years and you haven't done anything," came too far into the debate. I will agree with that. But it was, he landed a lot of punches, reminding people about immigration, the effects of it, and contrasting his record on the economy with hers. There were too many parts at the end of the debate. Yeah, it was 3-on-1. I mean, you start to look at race, climate change, abortion, Obamacare. I mean, it felt like a night at the DNC.
January 6th and election denialism, both.
Yeah, both. I mean, exactly.
Look,
both got up there. And
then
when she lied, and there were lots of lies, but here's just, so we played some of what they would do to Trump, right? Like they would fact check him with fact checks that were not true. And look, what do they do when Kamala Harris is up there misleading? All right. It came up about the BLM riots. Trump raised it. Of course, the moderators didn't raise her support for bailing out the protesters. But look at this. SOT 10.
She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out. Wait a minute. I'm talking now. If you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar? She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this.
So she's shaking her head no when he's saying she bailed out these criminals. This is her tweet. This is her tweet. Kamala Harris tweeted it out on 6/1/20. If you're able to, chip in now to the Minnesota Freedom Fund to help post bail for those protesting on the ground in Minnesota. This is exactly what he was referring to. If she had a defense on it, we didn't get to hear it because the moderators did not follow up. They moved on. Miss Fact Checker Lindsay Davis, Mr. Fact Checker David Muir had no interest in actually following up and saying, here's the tweet, madam. You did. You shook your head no. You did it. And as to the allegation about the illegals and the sex change operations, that was reporting that CNN had exclusively on the K-File yesterday. You filled it out in an ACLU ACLU questionnaire. How can you shake your head? No, you didn't do it. Where was that fact check, Sean?
Yeah. I mean, on issue after issue, it was, we're going to say, and by the way, the quote fact checks that they did against Donald Trump were wrong. The Virginia governor, Ralph Northam, a former doctor, did say exactly what Donald Trump said he said. Whether or not that abortions are performed at that late stage is quite another issue. The Virginia governor said exactly what Donald Trump said. There are reports. We actually online now. The issue of those issues in Ohio have come out. So issue after issue, they fact checked them incorrectly.
Yeah, that's the thing, leaving the audience with the appearance that he didn't know what he was talking about, and he was lying repeatedly, which she kept saying, and it played beautifully for her. Tim, what are your thoughts on tonight?
Yeah, I guess, look, hearing all of this, you kind of would think that, like, Donald Trump has no agency in this situation, that if the bait is set and he takes it, he is a victim in that situation. We got fact checks on questions like Sean noted. There is no state where it's legal to kill a baby. Right. And if you make that fact check and it is something inserted at the end of an answer to tell the viewer. But if that is the case, is that really?
Let me ask you something, Tim. Let me ask you a question. In Minnesota.
Very quick. One second.
Let me ask you a question.
I will just say, go ahead.
I'm fact checking you. In Minnesota, okay, if they are trying to abort a baby and the baby is born, notwithstanding the abortion, it's born alive. Are you aware that it is legal for them to just let the baby sit on the table and die? They do not have to get medical care. Do you know that?
But the way that Donald Trump is describing it is like women are making a decision where they have a baby, and then
so
they say,
you didn't deny it. That's
we
what
are
we're
going
referring to when we say it's legal to kill the baby post-birth. Okay. The Republicans tried to pass a federal bill that would make you provide medical care, not just comfort care.
But I will just say,
and the Democrats killed it.
Okay. I will just say, this is part of the reason why the dials testing for Democrats, or at least what we're hearing from the Biden campaign, is the best on this issue, is because Republicans talk about it in this way. I will just say, too, on the bias question with ABC, he had about 6 to 7 extra minutes to answer questions. And that may be the worst things that the moderators actually did for Donald Trump, is actually give him extra time to speak, because he couldn't stay on message, because he followed every trap and every rabbit hole she set for him. And when he set one for her, which was pretty gross, and I'm glad she didn't take it, that she puts out, which is fairly disgusting thing to say, she made it a question about decency larger for the country. So, like, I guess my point on the bias is these people have agency. You can choose to answer the questions you want. When you're answering a question about China, don't talk about how you love Xi. Don't take the bait on your rallies being emptied. Don't say that you would not necessarily veto an abortion ban. Don't refer to the rioters at January 6th as we. Don't give an incoherent answer on energy and oil. Don't talk about eating people's pets.
And Tim,
one more I'd add. It is his choice.
One more I'd add that. Say you want Ukraine to beat Russia. He wouldn't say he wanted Ukraine to beat Russia.
It is.
I understood why he said. I understood why he didn't say what he said about Ukraine, because let me tell you guys, in the Republican Party, they're over Ukraine. They're done. They're done funneling money to this country. They believe that the war is already lost and that it will not be won by Ukraine, and that what needs to be said is, let's face reality. They've already lost, and Donald Trump understands that, and that is why he answered the way he did on Ukraine. But the thing about the pets in Springfield, can we just spend a minute on that? Because Trump was right. We've seen first-person testimonials by residents there saying, yes, they took ducks out of the pond and beheaded them to eat them. We've seen Facebook posts with a woman claiming that a cat had been stolen and that they saw their family cat strung up the way you'd string up a deer, and that it was clearly being skinned and prepared to be eaten. And all we have in response is the city manager vaguely saying that he doesn't believe these things are true. But these have been debunked. They're not true. I'm telling you, that's not what happened. So once again, you have David Muir with his attempted fact check, and Trump was right to say, I've seen the people themselves offering these testimonials. This has been unresolved at best. This has not been resolved in favor of the city manager. Go ahead, Mark. Oh,
Megyn,
wait, I'm sorry. I'll give you the floor. But let me just make clear. The reason this is relevant is because it's Haitian migrants who have come to the city and are accused of doing these things. Go ahead.
but let's say it's 100% true. And we don't know. We don't know that it's false, but we don't know how true it is, right? Let's say it's 100% true. Is that really the best way for Donald Trump to have it out over the negative effects of illegal immigrants in this country? Is that really the best way? When there's many examples of
about Laken Riley again.
Murders? Correct. He should have said to her, Madam Vice President, tell us the story of Laken Riley and what it means to you. You know, fighting about dogs and ducks when there's actual concrete examples. It's testament to how easily he was baited and how, as much as the moderators were absolutely against him, he did himself no favors.
Tim, what are you hearing amongst Democrats? Like, are they euphoric tonight? They feel like this is a crushing, because now she's out there saying, let's have another debate. Let's have lots of debates.
Yeah. I'm trying to put my best poker face on here for how good I feel, So I think people are happy with how the debate turned out. I think, look, there's a little bit of euphoria on the Democratic side right now for how well this debate went. But I think people come back down to earth very quickly, understanding that, yes, this is the largest bipartisan audience we're probably going to get that's going to be able to see the two of them on stage. But this is going to be a really, really close race. And it's going to remain that way after this debate. So even when it feels like a slam dunk on either side, we still are where we are. I did note that, Brian Fallon tweeted that they were happy with the debate. They're looking forward to doing it again in October. So I said this morning, I lean towards a second debate will happen. I still believe that.
There was not a single question about. Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Because I would just be careful what you wish for. I just don't. I think that at best this debate is a push. I think the Kamala Harris folks might. I think the people who were supporting her are probably excited. I think the conversations that I've had and the texts that I've had with folks on Team Trump think that he did exactly what he needed to do. People were looking at him to see if he would go over the top, if there was going to be name calling. Remember, there was bars set for each of them. And people were concerned that Trump was going to come out and call her names and talk over her or whatever. He actually flipped the script on her, as you played just a moment ago, when he said, I'm talking now, using that famous line that she used against Vice President Pence in the 2020 cycle. So I think that we have to judge this. The real audience here were those undecided, persuadable people in the 7 battleground states. And I don't really think, to be honest with you, that the needle got pushed a lot for either candidate.
Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.